Singers and supporters and listeners who enjoyed the music of the fellow we're honoring today, the late Bob Fountain. All our friends from McKinnon's and others, we're delighted to have you here as well. We are going to have an awful lot of good time, and we're going to have a lot of good memories because Bob was all about good music and a lot of fun. We're going to have a lot of fun today. We're going to dispense with a lot of regular chapter formality so that we can just get into the program and celebrate this wonderful good friend that I'm sure is, on the one hand, looking down and shaking his finger at us. I told you I didn't want anything like this. Too bad, Bob. We won it, so we're going to do it. So, Randy Elkins, our vice president of the chapter, has done a wonderful job to put together this program, including what we think you will enjoy on the screen in terms of a wonderful slideshow and a little history and memory of the great Bob Fountain. AJ, go ahead. And there you have Bob Fountain, a charter member of what was then known as the Southeastern Chapter of the American Theater Organ Society, now known as the Atlanta Chapter. See what I mean? He was born in 1941 in North Augusta, South Carolina. A beloved musician of enormous talent and infectious personality, it's been said that if Bob were to open at a club on the moon, his customers would stack their cars bumper to bumper till they got there and do it night after night after night. Bob's family was very supportive. His father managed the Rhodes Furniture Store in Augusta after returning from service in the war. And at an early age, Bob went with his mother to the Imperial Theater in Augusta, where he had his initial introduction to the Wurlitzer Theater pipe organ. Seeing the console in the pit, lights on, no organist present, and within the temptation of arm's reach, the opportunity to reach across the rail and press the closest stop tabs down simply could not be passed up. This served to infect Bob with the organ bug, but also generated a reprimand once back at home. Don't do that again. A reprimand that was ignored, I guarantee you. Bob's grandparents had some recordings of organ music made by a guy named Jesse Crawford. And Bob loved that sound of those recordings, although not really sure why. Like many aspiring players, Bob made trips to the local churches to experiment with the organ, usually without permission, particularly without permission from the presiding organist. As a youth, Bob had the opportunity to visit Atlanta with his grandparents, where he got to hear the organ at the Roxy Theater, which was close to their hotel. He even managed to make friends with some of the theater staff, resulting in his return for an overnight session playing that organ. And during high school in Augusta, Bob discovered the Hammond organ. Pictured here in a rather large hat, Bob is playing the Hammond for the first time. Was he already aspiring to play Tico Tico? Who knows? Bob played the organ alone for school assemblies, for pep rallies, and for pageants. And he also played frequent gigs with his band, The Satellites. Playing current favorites was to form the basis of his career. After high school, Bob moved to Atlanta to attend Georgia State University, pursuing a degree in marketing. During this time, he was able to supplement his school expenses by playing evenings in a restaurant. Bob would later become manager of the Thomas Organ Center in Atlanta. When the organ jobs proved to be more lucrative than the retail job, Bob moved to support himself as organist in the field of popular music. He originally used a Hammond, which he painted high gloss white. Eventually, that Hammond was replaced with a Thomas Palace III, a 3-manual theater organ with an external glockenspiel and 4 Leslie speakers. This instrument was still in use at McKinnon's until the end of Bob's career. Like many of us, Bob loved having his picture taken at the various organs he was privileged to play. And he also had a thing for publicity photos. Many of these photos have instructions on the back for the processor at the photo lab in regards to colorization and cropping. Bob was meticulous when it came to promoting Bob. And here he is a bit more recently at some of the other organs. And that's a good one. And here he is with the great Bob Van Camp. During the 60s, he met Van Camp, organist at the Fox and radio personality at WSB, because Bob was playing contemporary music for his gigs. That's Bob Fountain. He was able to persuade Bob Van Camp to try some new sounds and songs on Mighty Mo at the Fox. And you can hear the result of this collaboration on Van Camp's 1967 vinyl recording, Here with the Wind, recorded on Mighty Mo. It featured traditional theater organ fare, as well as then current numbers like Don't Sleep in the Subway, Winchester Cathedral, Georgie Girl, and Michelle. New music for Bob Van Camp at the suggestion of one Bob Fountain. Among his many achievements and prestigious appointments, Bob was the first organist for Braves baseball in Atlanta, also for the basketball team, and he had a memorable game July 20th, 1969 against the San Diego Padres at Atlanta Stadium. There was a pause in the proceedings during the 7th inning to observe the moon landing of Apollo 11. Appropriately, after the time of silence, Bob played God Bless America, and that made the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Bob's local theater organ experience was varied and included stints at the Music Grinder Plaza, Pizza Emporium in Marietta, the Excelsior Mill, and the Wind Sound Warehouse in Atlanta, and at Stevenson High School in Stone Mountain. Bob performed frequently with other instrumentalists and vocalists, many of whom were his regular followers at the various restaurants and clubs. Dancers were also a steady feature wherever Bob was playing, even performing outside right next to a swimming pool. We hope they were imbibing not too much, at least a little too close to the water. Bob apparently had an appreciation for birthdays, proven by this sign from the Savoy. The sign also proves that Bob was the master of the organ, and somebody also needed to learn how to spell invite. But anyway, we'll let you know that we have cake here for after the program that we'll enjoy in honor of Bob's love for birthdays and birthday cake. Folks recall Bob even reminding servers, bring him a slice of the cake. Continuing, he was a leading figure in the Atlanta cabaret and open mic scene. While there are still open mics with live accompaniment by younger generations, the following is much smaller. Perhaps it's comforting to realize that that scene was the precursor to the modern karaoke movement. In fact, a local 20-something singer who is heard weekly on the Atlanta open mic scene is in the running for a new reality show in the ilk of The Voice, which will be centered around karaoke and will be filmed during October in London. We all know that our dear Bob had a hand in this, and if that 20-something is cast in the show, we'll reveal that identity in the Atlanta chapter ATOS newsletter. But Bob was basically live karaoke and opened the door for a lot of singers, and we're going to hear a few of them today. So, here's a list of the places Bob played during his historic run with music in Atlanta. And this afternoon, we are excited to hear from the folks who cherished Bob and their time with him as we present a half a dozen of the vocalists that we got to hear in my stay at McKinnon's and some of you at many places beyond. I will turn the meeting over to ATOS Chapter Vice President Randy Elkins to continue the program. Here's Randy.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right. Well, there's the slideshow. I didn't know Bob. I feel like the preacher who had to preach somebody's funeral without knowing them. But then Rick McGee, who many of us know is in rehab right now after significant surgery, and was Bob's executor of his estate and friend for decades, had these photo albums of Bob's, and John Alford got them to me, and I had more fun nosing through Bob's photo albums and learning about him and seeing the progress, because I didn't just see the progress of age on Bob, but I saw the progress of photography. Those black and whites from the beginning had that rippled edge that I remember from pictures from my grandparents. The one in front of the Fox in Detroit with Rick McGee and Bob, they were at a ATOS convention, was a Polaroid. And then we moved on into some more modern types of photographs. There was nothing already digital. And I scanned those twice at my church at the scanner because the first time I scanned them in the wrong format. I'm learning. So anyway, it was really great fun putting that together. You'll see up here on the stage this thing. This is a Hammond portable Hammond B3. And I picked it up on Facebook Marketplace. We thought it was working, and now it's got shield problems on the wires. So Andrew Fazakerly, at the last minute, has switched from this instrument to the theater organ to accompany our singers today. And Andrew, I want to thank you very much. If you'll come on up and we'll get ready. And our first singer today, Marshall, is playing drums. Here he comes. Great. Here they are. Our first singer today, I have to put my glasses back on. Oh, it's John, right. It's John Alford, none other than John Alford, who's also running sound and toting sound things and all that stuff. Here you go. John, thank you.
I try to be a team player.
You are the team.
Two quick things to say. In one of the pictures around the pool, you may have seen a red-headed lady. That was Barbara Berry, who was a regular at Bob's and an absolute delight. She had such amazing stage presence, and she was so much fun. She used to introduce herself when she was doing a cabaret show. She said, "Bob and I have a strange and wonderful relationship. He's strange, and I'm wonderful." The other thing, Bob always did things to try to crack me up. One of the things he would do when I was in the middle of holding a long note, he would do something to catch my eye. I would look over at him, and he would do a big glissando with his elbow up on the top keyboard, which invariably cracked me up, which sounds great over a microphone. But now, let's hear this masquerade. Are we really happy with this lonely game we play? Searching for the right words to say, searching but not finding, understanding anyway. We're lost in this masquerade. Both afraid to say we're just too far away from being close together from the start. We tried to talk it over, but the words got in the way, and we're lost inside this lonely game we play. Thoughts of leaving disappear every time I see your eyes, and no matter how hard I try to understand the reason why we carry on this way, we're lost in this masquerade. Take it away, Andrew. got in the way, and we're lost inside this lonely game we play. Thoughts of leaving disappear each and every time I see your eyes. And no matter how hard, no matter how hard I may try to understand the reason why we carry on this way, we're lost in this masquerade. Yes, we're lost in this masquerade. So I'm lost in this masquerade.
Thank you, guys. That was great. Thanks, John. You're Marshall. Next, we have Benny T, who is going to sing some blues for us. And I'm sure you have something to remember about Bob, too.
Hi, everybody. My husband, Don Weiss, was also an ATOS member for most of the time that he was here in Atlanta. He passed away just 3 years ago. And I know that he always loved the theater organ. I met Don because of Bob Fountain. And Bob played at our wedding. And I met Bob shortly after I came to Atlanta in 1982. And so Bob was a big part of my life. I know how many of us really, really miss him. I'm trying to think of something really funny that he did, but everything he did was really funny. He was a very kind man, and whatever he did, he tried so hard, so very hard, to please every single person. No matter, it would just break his heart if somebody got upset with him because he did something that they didn't like. Anyway, it was like he never ever seemed to learn you can't please everybody, because he certainly tried. But this particular song, and I did have a recording, and I had I did a remote where Bob was playing to be able to have him play on this song. It's St. Louis Blues. It's on my CD, and I did it at a remote so that Bob could play it. And he loved to play the song. If you knew Bob at all, you knew how he really got into things. It was kind of like Mario Andretti behind a speeding race car, the way he played. So, Andrew? To see the evening sun go down. I hate to see that evening sun go down. Cause my baby, he done this time. strings. You got the man that I love wrapped in your apron strings. Fun for powder and all that stubble in. Ah, you Jezebel. You know the man that I love, he wouldn't have gone nowhere, nowhere. I got to say, Bluey Blues, just as blue, blue as I can be. Because that man's got a heart like a rock cast into the sea. Or else he wouldn't have gone so far away from me. Thank you, Martha.
Wow, that was fabulous. As Dennis comes down, I have to confess, I said I didn't know Bob. Let me tell you about the last time I saw him. It was at Lowe's in Brookhaven, in front of the air conditioner filters. He was on a scooter thing. This was after the accident. And he was looking for one, and I was looking for one. And we were there for 2 hours talking about Hammond organs and Leslie speakers. That's the last time I spent time with him. And I've also spent a Christmas with him as well at Ken's house. Ken Double has this orphans Christmas party kind of thing, and found myself on the sofa. I had no idea who I was sitting next to, and learned a lot. So here comes Dennis, who has some great stories too, I'm sure. You can tell me.
I didn't meet Bob but about 10 years ago, and I met him at McKinnon's. And he was a marvelous organist, and I loved singing with him. I went to see him at the rehab center just before he was to be discharged. And he said, help me into that wheelchair. Now take me downstairs. We went down to this large room, and there was a big piano in it, and there was a particular song he liked, and he asked me to sing it. And it's on the street where you live. And this is for you, Bob. I have often walked down the street before, but the pavement's always stayed beneath my feet before. All at once am I several stories high, knowing I'm on the street where you live. Are there lilac trees in the heart of town? Can you hear a lark in any other part of town? Does enchantment pour out of every door? No, it's just on the street where you live. And oh, the towering feeling just to know somehow you are near. The overpowering feeling that any second you may suddenly appear. favor? Thank you, Marshall. Thank you, Bob.
All right. Well, our next singer is the first person in this whole group of people that I ever met. I don't know where I heard her first, but Tommy Macon has been a favorite of mine since the first time I heard her sing, and she had a very special closeness to Bob. So here comes Tommy to sing the chorus.
Hey, everybody. Isn't this wonderful? Well, I'm going to tell you about the first time I met Bob, and the first time I met some of you was when I walked into the Savoy. And you know, when I walked into the Savoy, I was the only one. And you know how you looked at me. But Bob was the one that made me feel comfortable. Now, don't feel bad because all of you extended so much love for me while I was there. But that first night I was there, Bob was the one that said, come here, sit here. And if you notice, the way the organ was situated in the middle of the room, well, toward the back of the room, and Bob was right here, and there was the berries. The berries always sit right here. And there was a little space, and there was the Leslie, this little space where the singers stood, and of course the bar. Well, the singers would stand here and sing out to everybody at the Savoy. Well, when Bob called me up there to sing, when he found out I could, I sang to Bob's left ear. I would not turn. I wasn't looking at y'all and didn't want y'all to look at me. But I sang to his left ear, and Bob got the biggest kick out of it. And he would call me up there. He said, come on up and sing to my ear. Every time he called me. And that's how it started out. And eventually I became comfortable enough to sing out to everybody. I can tell you more about the first night there because it was interesting, but that's another time. But Bob's favorite song, of course, you know, was the trolley song. And him and I had, every time he asked me to sing that song, I'd just get highs. But he also had another song that we started doing at McKinnon's. And fellas, are you ready? I love the East. I love the West. North and South. They're both the best. But I only know that as a guest. Yeah, I love it here with you. Singing in the shower. That's another hour. Life is such a breezy thing. In all kind of weather. As long as we're together. I love it when you say my name. I love good wine and fine cuisine. Candlelight, I love that scene. Oh, well, let me tell you what I mean. Yeah, I love being here with you. Come on in. Come on, y'all. Don't just sit there. This is what Bob likes. Macy's band is swinging, Isabel is singing, 'cause there's something else you know. They know how to play it, they know how to say it, they just wind it up and let it go. I love New York and all the show. I wanna kiss your lovely nose. Well, let me say before I go, yeah, I love being here. Don't you know I love being here? Baby, I love being here with you.
Thank you, Tommy. Oh my gosh. I said, and I love being here with her. Wow. Okay. Well, Joe, it's time to face the music. Joe's like, I have to sing after Tommy. I said, yeah, you have to sing after Tommy. Come on up, Joe. I see Joe almost every week at an open mic with David Reeve, and he's been a big supporter of mine. You don't hear me singing tonight for a good reason. Here goes Joe.
Thank you, thank you. Hi, everybody. Well, when did I first meet Bob? Well, I had just taken a course at the Learning Annex. It was called Singing from Shower to Stage, where you would go for 3 lessons on how to sing in a cabaret. And the 4th week you would perform at a cabaret. And after that experience, I got a call one day, and it was from a guy named Milton Berry, who was Barbara Berry's husband. And he said, I heard you were singing in this class, and we have a thing called Trisbro, which is a theater, and it's directed by Spencer Steenrod, and that name was familiar, and I went, Spenny? They said, yes. Well, it turns out that Spenny and I had done summer stock on Cape Cod 20 years before that. And so they said, well, we know this place. It's the San Jose, and there's an organist there, and his name is Bob Fountain, and he plays for our group, Trisbro, and we'd like you to meet him. And I've never done piano bar before, and I was nervous as anything. And I know how people are now when they come for the first time. It's really scary sometimes. No, most of the time. And there was this guy behind the organ. And the thing I remember about Bob is how kind he was. And no matter how much of a wayward child I was with Bob, he was always kind and giving. And today I'd like to perform the first song I ever sung with Bob all those many years ago when I was a nervous wreck. Who can I turn to? When nobody needs me, my heart wants to know, and so I must go where destiny leads me. With no star to guide me, and no one beside me, I'll go on my way, and after the day, the darkness will hide me. Maybe tomorrow I'll find what I'm after. I'll throw off my sorrow, beg, steal, or borrow my share of laughter. I can learn to, with you on a new day. But who can I turn to if you turn away? What kind of fool am I, who never fell in love. It seems that I'm the only one that I have been thinking of. What kind of man is this? An empty shell, a lonely cell in which an empty heart must dwell. What kind of lips are these that lie with every kiss, that whispered empty words of love, that left me alone like this? Why can't I fall in love like any other man? And maybe then I'll know what kind of fool I am. I am.
Thank you, Joe. Wow, wow, wow. All right, we're to our final singer. Catherine and I have been talking about this tribute for about, 7 years now? It feels like it. Every time we see each other, when is it coming up? The date has had to move a couple times and things, and it's just been great, and Catherine stayed in with me. Here we go. Can you make it? Did you bring your penny whistle? That's my favorite thing, is that Catherine will show up at open mic and just start playing penny whistle from the back of the room. I do that on a melodica. Here we go, Catherine. Have fun. Yeah, like it or not. Here we go.
Wow. I have that follow Joe Sater. Dang, that was wonderful. Such an honor. I'm so honored to be here singing a song for the most incredible Bob Fountain and the amazing Marshall and Andrew here doing a fabulous job. My memory of Bob has been Ebb Tide. That was always my favorite song to do with him because you could smell the salt air, because there was the sound of birds, the ocean waves kissing the shore. It was all there in the organ, the whole orchestra. It was always an amazing experience. And I would have sang that with you today, but sort of like Bob channeled the song. So let's have a go at it. Don't look so sad. I know it's over, but life goes on, and this old world, it keeps on turning. Let's just be glad we had some time to spend together. But be mindful of the bridges that we're burning. I'll lay my head upon of this pillow, you place your warm and tender thoughts next to mine. Hear the whisper of the raindrops falling soft against the window. Let's make believe we're together one more time, for the good times. Don't look so sad, I know it's over, and I'll be here if you should ever find you need me. Let's just be glad we had this time to spend together. Be mindful of the bridges that we're burning. I'll lay my head upon this pillow. You place your warm and tender thoughts next to mine. Hear the whisper of the raindrops falling soft against the window. Make believe we're together one more time. Everybody, for the good time.
Thank you, Catherine, Andrew, and Marshall. Let's hear it for all the musicians on the program today. Thank you so much. And Ken Double is back there somewhere, I believe. Lloyd Hess was to perform today, and I need to mention this. Lloyd is another chapter member who is a lounge organist, much in the style of Bob. But Lloyd fell off his deck and injured his shoulder. I think he just kind of fell from here down, but he got his shoulder, and he thought he might be able to play for church today, but would not be able to play today, this afternoon. So the program has wound up a little bit shorter than planned. As is tradition at Theater Organ Society programs, we have open console now, but we also have a great tribute to Bob out in the lobby, cake. So you're encouraged to support the theater and buy a Coke and have a piece of cake. It's out there. Is it ready? Kids already drinking it.
Yes, hang on.
And bourbon? What? Oh, they're probably serving that already.
For those of you who are so moved, the bar is open. So I'm proposing the first toast to our good friend Bob Fountain. And a sip of vodka, but you do what I want you with. And yes, by all means, as Randy says, support the theater, have a Coke or whatever. The cake is sliced and it's straight ahead in that little reception area. And so feel free to grab a piece of cake. Thanks to John Alford. Thanks to Randy Elkins, who worked really hard to make this happen. Our thanks to a wonderful guy named Chris Escobar, who owns and operates this Plaza Theater. I may be repeating things that have been said before. So the most interesting thing as to why the Allen organ sits here is Chris Escobar's father-in-law is Hector Olivera, the great concert theater organist. And when Chris took over and we approached him, he said, "Ooh, yeah." And when he talked to his father-in-law, he said, The organ you want to get is a Lynn Larson model, which is exactly what we had looking for a new home, and so it's been a wonderful marriage. And so thanks to Chris and his great staff. They are great friends of the theater organ. We're doing silent film things here and other things, so thank you all very much. Great, enjoy yourselves. We'll have some more music on the Allen. The cake is being cut, and we appreciate all so much y'all being here and having some fun.